Today I'm going to walk you through some communication concepts that showed up in a past relationship I had. This experience really helped me grow, and I've learned a lot through this class that explains why certain things can happen. Um, we met in high school and we had a great connection early on, but as time passed, we ran into some communication issues. So, in this presentation, I'll use four concepts from four different chapters to explain what happened. This relationship lasted almost 2 years, and obviously, we eventually broke up, but I've learned a lot from that experience. A preview of the concepts are differentiating, avoidant attachment style, active listening, and emotional dishonesty. Um, from chapter 9, differentiating. This is a stage when two people start to focus more on their individual differences rather than what they have in common. This is what really stood out to me because I remember when we started saying, "You do your thing, I'll do mine." It was kind of like a shift from we to me versus you, and it created more like emotional distance between us. And we also stopped doing things together and preferred to be on our own, which also made us grow apart. So this showed me how it's important to stay connected through communication and through the interests that we both shared. The next slide is avoidant attachment style from chapter 10. Um, my ex-partner, they had a very avoidant attachment style. So when I would try to talk about my emotions, they just shut down or just leave. And at that time, I thought it was personal, but now I realize they didn't know how to deal with closeness. It made me feel like I was being ignored or like my feelings didn't matter. So now I do understand how attachment styles affect how people communicate and how they connect emotionally. The next slide is active listening from chapter 7. One thing I noticed was how poor our listening was, like our active listening, because I'd open up, but they would barely react or seem like they were only half listening. So I've learned that paraphrasing and asking each other questions shows that you care and that it's a way of showing that you're still engaged in the relationship. And without that, the communication just breaks down. So this also includes like positive body language, not interrupting them when they speak. In this relationship, I really felt like I was never being heard. So I would explain how I felt, but I could tell they were distracted or not fully paying attention. So this obviously caused misunderstandings and made small problems feel a lot bigger than they actually were. Next slide is emotional dishonesty and microaggressions. So this is like lying to protect someone's feelings or manipulating information. That can be very damaging to the other person. So emotional cheating or indirect aggression, like ignoring or guilt tripping, also affects your partner in a big way. An example is how at one point they would hide things from me to protect me, but I later found out about, like messages they were sending someone else. And obviously they didn't consider it cheating, but to me it felt like betrayal. Like I don't really know how to explain the feeling because it's not cheating, but it also feels like that person is betraying you, which I guess in a way kind of is cheating. Like it's kind of like a parallel, but it's very hard to explain that feeling. It's not a good feeling, but that secrecy and that emotional disconnection really hurt the trust between us. But their emotional connection with someone else made me feel pushed aside, and they also kept things from me to protect me, but it only made me more anxious at the end of the day. And that's why I think this chapter, which is chapter 14, I think that's why it's called like the dark side of relationships, because it really shows like the very negative and dark feelings that you can feel when someone is being like emotionally dishonest with you. And then the conclusion, what I learned from chapter 7, I realized how important it is to be an active listener. And not feeling heard is what really caused a lot of distance between us. Chapter 9 showed how we were in the differentiating stage, growing apart emotionally. Chapter 10 explained our emotional fights and our avoidant conflict styles. And from chapter 14, I saw how emotional cheating and hiding the truth really damaged our connection. So I think overall this project really helped me understand like why things didn't work and what I need in future relationships. Like honesty, good listening, and emotional openness. I learned how communication really shapes how strong or fragile a relationship can be. And I really do feel like if we were better communicators, then this relationship probably would have lasted longer. So I feel like the relationships that really do last the most, people who are married for a very long time, I feel like they have good relationships because they keep um their connections fresh, and they also are really good at listening to each other and at communicating. So I really feel like at the end of the day, it's about being a good communicator, because if you're not a good communicator, then I feel like that just leads to a lot of different problems. Being honest, I feel like is just a value that every person should have, not just in relationships, but even in your friendships, with your parents, even with a stranger. I feel like being honest in all your interactions is super important. So, yeah, that's my conclusion. And thank you for listening to my presentation.